Yeah, he's mad efficient. He's Aaron Rodgers.
He also got sacked 49 times.
Yeah, I'm going to sack you 49.
And he's actually...
You are now listening to the Trash Talk Fantasy Football Podcast with your hosts, Angelo Sandone, Mike Saraf, and Mario Maniaci. Like and subscribe.
What up? It's your host with the most, the biggest assholes on the East Coast, Trash Talk Fantasy Football Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Angelo Sandone. We got Mike Saraf.
What?
Mario Maniaci.
Yo.
And Dutch Master. Guys,
Wolf,
we are pumped today. Pumped! We got our quarterback rankings for 2019. Everything you guys need to hear for the upcoming drafts you have. We're going to go through our top 20 and break it down into tiers for you. Basically, how we look at it is there's a couple top tiers. We have a wave of new guys coming in, and we have a wave of old guys trying to stay relevant. And then we got some other cats that are just hanging around.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Nailed it.
You really did. Threw me off guard. I didn't expect you to do so well.
Yeah. Now, so we tried to record this take maybe like 19 times, and I fucked it up every time. So I'm really excited we got a good one there. Mario, how are you doing today, buddy?
Number one shouldn't be number one. I'm just going to say it now, and I'm going to say it throughout the podcast. He's number one, and he's there on my list, but he shouldn't be.
Really?
That's just, I can't get over that feeling. That's just how I feel. He's done it 1 year. He's new, but you know he's going to do it again.
He's just jumping right in. He's like cutthroat. Yo, you are.
He's like, Patty, prove it to me. That's what he wants to see.
Yeah, Patty, prove it to me. There you go.
Damn, dude, that's some deep shit. All right, so
now from what I saw, that motherfucker proved it.
Yo, and he did, but I saw a lot of no look, a lot of it. Like, I
hope
he's as lucky.
That's talent.
Or is it luck?
That's talent.
Dude, that's not luck, because he was smoking the last game that he played. That's what based my whole decision on picking him last year in the 9th. Even Mike said it the other day. I looked over at everyone. I'm like, you're going to think that I'm reaching, or half of you might not even know who he is. I'm taking this guy. He was a baller. He balled out, dude, in his small role.
Andy Reid, offense always produces. He may take a little step back.
Yo, did you see the Andy Reid meme?
We don't know what's going on with Tyreek Hill, right?
Right.
So, I mean, that's still looming. Not having Kareem Hunt. So he's going to have some turnover. But he still has Kelsey. Kelsey's his rock. Dude, right?
He can drop and regress 10 touchdowns. Okay, 10 touchdowns. He can regress and still be number one. That's what I'm saying. He's there. He deserves it. After only one full season, it's just everybody's so high on him. 50
touchdowns last year?
50.
That was the stat line? What was the stat line last year?
5,097 yards, 50 touchdowns, 12 interceptions with a 66% completion.
Give me some quick math here. So 50 touchdowns, drops 20%. He's at 40 touchdowns. Yeah. Simple math.
Oh, sorry, you guys can't see me nod.
Yes, no. We're doing air quotes. You can't see it. But so what do you think the regression is? Because even at 40 touchdowns, Luck's going to have a hell of a time. Like we were talking about it when we were prepping for the show. We were talking about how if Luck throws 50 this year, we're not shocked. But like, what do we realistically think he's throwing? 40?
Yeah, I think Luck's right about 40. I don't know if Mahomes can do 50. 50's a magical number, right? That's a lot of touchdowns.
Dude, I think he's the guy. The only reason I'm not keeping him in our keeper league is because it's just the value isn't there. Like, he's a guy I might be able to snag coming back. Like, there's a possibility I might be able to get Pat Mahomes at the end of the third.
Yeah,
it's been falling that way.
But, I mean, when he dominates the way that he does, you got to someone's going to be there trying to reach.
This is true.
You know, and that always, you get some new people in the league. I mean, last year when we drafted, everyone was like low on QB, but that I feel like in my other leagues that changes. Like, oh, it's QB year, you know, and then now it's really not. And based off, you know, where you're at and where you like your team.
The NFL has never had this much talent at the quarterback position before, ever.
Yo, what do you guys think in fantasy, like taking your quarterback position and putting a premium? Because I feel like the quarterback position is kind of like falling off a little bit in a sense. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not like it's the most important position in the field. Why isn't it the most important position in fantasy? I won't touch a quarterback most situations before 9 or 10. If I'm there at the end of the 4 or early 5 and Pat Mahomes is there, I'm going Mahomes. But I'm not reaching on anybody else before the 9th, 10th round.
And that's the thing, though. But the only way to get the quarterback more value in fantasy would be to give him points for the rushing accomplishments. That's the only way you can give either.
No, I think you can give guys points on like winning drives. You led the team down the field. You should get like a 2-point premium for that. You know what I'm saying? Like they do it with tight ends a lot to keep them equal with receivers and things like that.
Okay.
So like if it's a first down Like if your quarterback throws a first down, it should also be a point. You get 1 point for every 25 yards. That's 2 first downs. That's double. That just doesn't seem as
fair.
fair.
Your math is off. That's like 5 first downs.
Well, no, it'd be
25
yards. 20, the other way. I went.
So it'd be two
I was
and a
thinking
half,
2 is 50. Yeah.
But I'm saying you're giving up, 2.5 basically possessions before he gets a single point, where a running back's already got 2.5 at that point.
Yeah, but he touches the ball every play. He's getting passing yards.
I know that's why he's the most important position,
and that's why quarterbacks no matter what, they get the most points. Right. The reason that there's not the focus on the quarterback like there is in the NFL getting that guy is because the point drop off in the tiers of running back and wide receiver is so much greater than the point drop off in quarterbacks. So like you said, you'd reach for the Mahomes or Luck in the 5th round, right? And okay, but you're not gonna reach for one of them lower tier running backs like that. Run that back.
I don't know. Have you ever fucking met Mario?
No. No, but you know what I'm saying? Like
C.J. Anderson,
when we get in,
Kenyon Drake.
When we get into our quarterback list, like our guys from the 5 spot down to the 15 spot were separated by a total of like 100 points, right? There's not that opportunity cost. So if you don't get one of the top guys, I'm cool with any one of these next 10.
Agreed 110%. That's why I want to put a premium on it. Like first down premiums, things like that. Like I want efficient quarterbacks. That makes them much more valuable. So
but you do. If you don't throw interceptions, you don't lose points.
It's almost like getting a game manager bonus. Like if like a quarterback is what they call a game manager, like an Alex Smith or somebody like that. Up until at least his last year.
So what Mahomes did last year was, light years ahead of everybody else. He was 100 points ahead. I mean, he's averaging 7, 8, 9 points a week more than everybody else. There's a premium for that. But it's most of these quarterbacks just put up similar stats.
All right. So what do you think a stat line is? Let's put some nuts to bolts here.
5,000. I don't think I think he takes a step back. I don't think 5,000's there. Give him 4,500. 4,500. 42 touchdowns, and he's aggressive. He had a lot of opportunities to throw picks and kind of got lucky. What was his pick line last year? 12.
12.
Yeah. So you might be looking at 15 to 16 picks this year.
Okay. Here's where I'm at. I'm going to go bold. He's going to throw for 52 touchdowns, 4,800 yards. He's going to throw 2 more touchdowns than he did last year, or at least on the ground, he's going to add 2 more touchdowns. He was decent on the ground. He wasn't bad, but he's going to step it up. I feel like he's just the guy to go to. He is Aaron Rodgers reincarnated. I had Aaron Rodgers and Calvin Johnson in a keeper league in early 2012, 2013. During that era, money in the bank. I feel like you can count on him at all times. I think for the next few years, you can definitely count on him. Unless some kind of injury pops up or something like that. He's the guy. But in this top tier, we also have Andrew Luck. Don't get me wrong. I love Luck this year. 39 touchdowns last year?
Yeah, 39 touchdowns, 45, almost 4,600 yards.
Yeah, so...
And he was only sacked 21 times. With that new line
really?
and that run game.
No shit.
Mahomes
he's going to 35?
Yeah.
35 sacks? That's crazy.
34. But yeah,
so they beefed up the O-line.
Yeah, they got a running game for the first time. This is the first time I'm like, hey, let me draft an Indianapolis running back. When's the last time you thought about that?
Dude, multiple weapons. I want a piece of that Colts offense. When was the last time we were able to say that? I'm so tired of overhyping Luck for such a long time. But he stepped it up. He's got the passing game. Yeah. He's got the coaching system from Frank Wright from Philadelphia went over there. Yeah. Night and day difference.
And Ebron led the league in touchdowns. His tight end. Okay,
finally, Eric.
In the Empire League, we had that decision, and part of me, even though we have Zach Ertz, part of me wishes we would have grabbed Ebron, because that would have been sick. That would have been sick to have a guy sitting on your bench that you could throw into one of those flex spots. And hey, listen, you got a 80% chance of him scoring a touchdown. Yeah. This live. That's great. I love it.
So also the continuity with T.Y. Hilton. And don't forget, Luck started slow last year. They were making the comments in that 3rd week against the Eagles because they brought in the backup quarterback to throw the Hail Mary at the end of the game.
Yep.
So they weren't sure where his arm strength was at. He had the slow start, and then he just caught fire. So Luck's definitely the second quarterback in that top tier. And I don't really think there's going to be much debate or anybody else really seen it.
Either one of those guys could end up at 1 or 2.
Yeah, and I mean, he even in the playoffs. I mean, he smoked Houston. I mean, so
that's a good defense too.
They put up a
and
really
they
good
can get after the quarterback.
Postseason run.
Mm-hmm. Word up. Third up on the list, we got my man, who I have at number 2 personally, Deshaun Watson. Watson gets sacked a lot.
65 times.
We're a little nervous. They spent early draft capital on the offensive line this year.
But don't forget, they're young and they have to develop. So, I love to see them investing and getting them taken care of. But they're going to have to learn to play with the big boys to keep Deshaun upright.
Absolutely. Then we got Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, what do you say about A-Rod?
No, I think there's a lot that needs to be said about A-Rod. Let's look at his stats last year. Can he stay healthy? Is he that quarterback that can't play till 40? I'm not high on Tom Brady this year.
Listen, he told me once, relax.
All right.
Right?
So he had 4,400 yards passing, 25 touchdowns, which was low, but a league leading, he only threw 2 interceptions.
Yeah, he's mad efficient. He's Aaron Rodgers.
He also got sacked 49 times.
Yeah, I'm going to sack you 49.
And he's actually one of the lowest on the completion. He's one of the lower. Actually, out of the top 20,
that's because A-Rod uses that arm. He throws downfield.
Yeah.
And
he's not afraid to overthrow
He's not. And he puts it where only the offensive player can get to it. That's why I didn't have any interceptions. But he just wasn't connected on a lot of stuff that he used to.
What's up, Mike?
All right, so we just covered Watson and Rodgers. We're moving into the young guns, right?
That sounded so corny.
But that's what it is, right? This next tier is they're all young players and they're all like fighting for that top spot. If any of them end up in the top 5, I'm not surprised. But we got Wentz, Goff, Mayfield, Cam Newton pops up here, Russell Wilson, and Dak Prescott. All guys that have already proven to me, besides Mayfield, that they can do it. Right? Wentz had a MVP season before he went down. Goff last year was off the charts.
Yeah.
Cam Newton a couple years ago was the MVP.
Cam Newton's great when he starts 16, but I don't think that he starts 16 this year. I think he misses a couple. But right now, Newton's ADP is sitting back. Like, he's like a quarterback 12 to 15. Dude, I will take Cam Newton paired up with Dak Prescott, paired up with any one of these other guys that are going 12 rounds or later in a heartbeat. Don't waste that draft capital when you have wide receivers. Like Mike said earlier, the separation is 30 points between, 15 quarterbacks?
No, it was 30 between 6, and then the next 5 were another 60. Yeah. So it was 100 between 11 spots.
Right. Which is not that bad. Like, if you end up with a guy who could potentially get 130 versus 150.
Well, and if you have 2 of them and you play the matchup.
Right, matchup.
And I get Big Ben when he goes up against Miami and he drops a 40 burger, right? Like,
listen to us on Sundays.
As long as Ben's at home, you can count on him.
Yeah, just to remind you guys, come Sunday mornings, we're still going to be here for you. We love you guys. We're here to answer your questions 24/7. Hit us up on Instagram. Hit us up on Twitter, Facebook. Trash Talk Fantasy Football Podcast. You can search it on all platforms. We should be up on Apple and Spotify soon as well, gentlemen. We're up on Anchor currently. You can go ahead and tune in there.
All right, Myron, do you have Wentz's stats over there? Because we have consensus we had him at 5.
Last year he had 3,074 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. And I think he played 13? So I mean, he missed 3 games, but I mean,
he didn't play 13, did he? I thought he played 11 again.
I thought he got to week 13. No, he missed a total of 8 games, so it's been 5 and 3.
He missed the first 2 weeks.
Oh, that's right.
And then
that's so you're right. Yeah, essentially a week 11 after 11 games.
Why are you trying to correct the stat guy?
So, but in 11 games he had 3,000 yards. If he plays all 16, that's extrapolate. That's another third of that. That puts you at like 4,400 yards. Last year completion percentage of 70%. I mean, he did target down Ertz. His 21 touchdowns, the 7 interceptions. Doesn't throw the ball away. But he did have the fumbleitis a little bit last year. I mean, he held the ball too long and he got hit from behind and dropped it. So hopefully picking up Dillard.
But we have him really high. But we have him really high consensus-wise.
Because just extrapolate his numbers from last year with an extra 5 games, he's at 4,300 yards, 21 touchdowns, becomes 33 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. That puts you in that 5-6 range.
Yeah.
And that was coming off the injury, not playing his best. And that's, I think, what we looked at when he hit the top of this tier was he has, if he gets back on that MVP caliber from the year before he got the ACL, he can launch into that Mahomes level.
He's in that Andrew Luck category where it's like if he's healthy and playing well, he's got the arm talent.
Listen,
everybody knows he can throw it.
This is why we tier these guys.
And consistency, they have all of his weapons locked up. He's playing with the same people. Ertz, Jeffrey, they bring in Deshaun Jackson, and you get an upgrade to Jordan Howard, running back.
Yeah.
You know, so now he can blow the top off. It's going to open it up underneath for Nelson. Let's.
What do you guys think about Mayfield this year?
I love him. I do.
See, I like him, and I think he does much better. I think he's a very good quarterback. I just don't think this is his breakout year. You got a lot of kind of new pieces in still a little bit. Everything's still kind of transitioning. Everyone's kind of learning the system a little bit, like working together. I think they finish out the year strong, but I think they could struggle in the beginning, which I think means good things for Baker. But I think as they wear on, I think Nick Chubb towards like mid to late season could really rack up some points.
Here's the thing. Cleveland has to run the fucking ball, right? Don't be Baker's our guy, throw it all on him. Yeah, you have Jarvis Landry and you have OBJ, and that's great. But what you got to do is you got to run the ball, right? You run the ball, you get the people off his back, he gets to make the good decisions, and he's proven to us that he can throw it.
Make them crowd the box. Yeah. Make them come after the run and stop the run, and it's that same sort of, ease off the young quarterback a little bit and let them come in late when they're giving up, like, okay, now we got to, stack the box. Now you're going to get that one-on-one outside.
I mean, and then he was only sacked 25 times last year, right? As a rookie, that's pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
And just if they do the right things on the offensive side, he has the talent to make the plays that he's supposed to make. We need to see that completion percentage come up. He targeted Jarvis Landry 200 fucking times, and they connected on 100. Right, like,
yeah, dude.
Whatever those exact numbers were.
No, it was like 150 and 70 or 60. Yeah,
63% completion.
Yeah, like
so
if you're throwing to your slot guy over the middle, you got to get that up to the 70%, and really want to be able to connect with OBJ on the outside at least 60%.
It's funny that you bring that up because that was what me and Josh from the Fantasy Football UK were talking about today. Was all about the slot receiver and how important that is. We both had Landry listed in our top 10 slots, but we had him at the back end of those slots because we're a little nervous with OBJ. It doesn't take much for him to say, give me the fucking ball, put me in the slot. Like, he's not scared to open his mouth.
And he's not scared to go over the middle
either. That's kind of what I want to see where the gel is. I think OBJ has a good attitude year one, wants to say fuck you to everybody. But I don't know if it's going to pan out as well as he hopes because we've seen how it works when he tries to kick fucking nets and they punch him back.
But he also played with Landry in college at LSU, so...
Oh, I don't think the issue so much with them playing together.
No, but those two, they know where they're going to be. I think that can help out.
I think OBJ will be fine if they win. What, they win 8 games last year? 7 games last year? They go 7-9, something like that?
6 games. I don't know.
Yeah, so
they won 5
OBJ is... It's going to be if they're winning, he's going to be okay. If they're losing and he feels that they're not targeting him enough and that's why they're losing, that's when he becomes a problem.
All right, I'm ready for a bold prediction. Dak Prescott will be a top 8 quarterback next year. I have him in my personal rankings at 8. Fuck what you heard. You heard it here first. I've been on the internet all 4th of July weekend so far, telling the truth about Dak Prescott. Now, I am not a Dak Prescott
Homer.
Apologist. No, I'm not an apologist. But realistically, looking at these numbers, there's an argument of how he could be a top 8 quarterback last year with having Amari Cooper for a full season. On top of that, he's got a better offensive line. A new offensive coordinator is going to run a more RPO-type system. And he's got Randall Cobb, so there's no... It's arguable, but I would say there's no drop-off between Beasley and Cobb. I would say it's just about even. And you still have Zeke Elliott, who's back in the passing game. I think Dak Prescott's actually going to get more rushing touchdowns this year than he did last year with 6. I think he has 8 this year.
That was my bold prediction in the very first podcast. But I said top 5. I said top 5. I'm just saying.
I don't want to fight with you. I don't know what you're...
Death match.
But I'll fucking kill you.
Listen, I see what you guys are saying, and Dak's been there. Right? He consistently gets the yards.
10. He's finished 6, 11, and now 10.
And it was a noticeably different quarterback once they added Cooper last year.
Yeah.
His ability to rushing yards, you were talking about earlier, 25 passing yards. Well, every 10 rushing yards for a quarterback is still a point.
His worst year when he finished 11. He started that season actually half decent statistical-wise. Zeke wasn't starting out so hot, so they had to throw a lot. So they were a little bit inflated.
And then Zeke got suspended.
Right. But think about this. Des Bryant, was second in the league in drops that year. He didn't have a number one receiver that year either. It wasn't until, week 5 or 6 until they got Cooper that he actually had a number one receiver. Cooper's volatile, yes. I wouldn't draft him as a standalone number one. No, I wouldn't do that. But what I would do is I would go ahead and grab Dak Prescott, because if you add Amari Cooper there, you got another few hundred yards and 2 touchdowns in a 5-game span. No doubt. No doubt. Who do we got next? I'm all fired up now.
All right. So in this tier, we haven't talked about Goff or Russell Wilson.
Dude, I love Goff. I love the system. I love the system that he's in. I'll tell you what. If Goff goes down, grab Blake Bortles. Don't hesitate. Grab Blake Bortles. So that is a system offense. Jeff Fisher.
Well, you saw last year, Todd Gurley beat up. They bring in fucking fat-ass C.J. Anderson.
His third team, and he plays in a Super Bowl.
So I love Goff. He gets Cooper Kupp back, which is just going to... that offense goes with him.
I love Kupp. Well, it's funny. If you look at the numbers with Jared Goff, Brandon Cooks and Jared Goff, when Cooper Kupp is not on the field, they suffer horrendously. The only person who makes out better is Robert Woods and Todd Gurley. Now that everything's kind of coming back into place, and especially if they have to bring Henderson in, there's a little bit of a learning curve, because it's debatable with Todd Gurley. I'm not going to get into that right now, but it's debatable. Who knows? If they have a weaker running back there, potentially, they're going to throw even more to Brandon Cooks. And I think Jared Goff is going to have, in 40, 50 yard bonus leagues, where you get the extra 1 or 2 points, he's going to take off there as well.
My biggest worry is, and you saw some D coordinators start to do it, he waits until 15 seconds and he has McVay in his ear. Right. If defenses start hiding things, and not getting and just being in a base defense until it's under 15 seconds, can he make the reads that he needs to? Or is he not going to be able to change the play and they're going to be stuck in a bad play because, he's not smart enough to be able to do it?
Yeah. Or is McVay holding people back by doing that? Keeping control? Because he's the one on the sideline. When McVay couldn't get in his ear in the Super Bowl, what happened to Goff? He didn't know what to do. He didn't know where to go. Now, you look at him again in the Dallas game, they lit Dallas up because Dallas got into their defense, and even the offensive line said, we knew what Dallas was doing. But that was
Dallas's fault. Because Dallas said,
preach, boy.
Dallas said,
fuck
our
Dallas.
Defense is fucking awesome. Just like Seattle used to. We're lining up. This is what we're doing. You can't beat us, and they got beat.
Yeah. That was an early 90s Cowboys thing. We're gonna run the ball up the middle, pound the rock down your throat, and guess what? You can't stop us. We know that you know what we're gonna do. Good luck.
All right. Yeah. Russell Wilson has the big drop off last year. Goes from number 1 overall down to number 9 last year. We have him ranked at 9 again this year. His season wasn't that far off. He was 2 touchdowns short of the year before. His 200 rushing yards and then 200 passing yards. That's what, 8, 20.
I don't know, you're the mathematician. Don't ever ask me a math
20
question
and 12.
ever.
That's 32 points, right?
Yeah.
Or 40 points, and that's what drops you out of the tiers. That's what we were talking about. 40 points is what this whole tier does. And now that they're running the ball more, he's not a part of every touchdown like he was in the past. So he could step back up. Losing Doug Baldwin really hurts, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Wilson drop down to 12 or 13 this year.
All right, so we're all in agreement on that tier there. Moving in, there's a lot of guys in the next tier that are the old heads that are trying to move in. Do you have a funky name for that one?
Subscribe, motherfucker.
Would have been better if you did. So this is just the old heads crew here.
Out of Rat Pack.
We
just covered the Brat Pack. Now we got the Rat Pack.
Yeah, now we got the Team AARP discount special. We only go to the movies on Tuesdays. It's $5. AMC, Defford 8, Defford, New
Plus,
Jersey.
it's an off day for football players, so win-win.
Yeah,
but so that tier is Matty Ice. If you can still, maybe it's Matty lukewarm now. Drew Brees, Kirk Cousins, Big Ben, and Phillip Rivers.
So, let's start with Matt Ryan. I like Matt Ryan. It's nothing against Matt Ryan. with the thought in mind that guys could fall 30, 40 points behind and be dramatically back in the standings, if you look at Matt Ryan's stats, it's like every other year he shits the bed. There should be some regression there. There's been a track record of regression there. So why not? Why am I to think that he's going to be top 5 again?
Well, I mean, he's got Julio Jones. He's got Calvin Ridley in his second year. Typically, I mean, Ridley had 10 touchdowns last year. And if most receivers get better in their second and third year, look out for him. But the thing is last year he was second overall in yards. I think down in third for touchdowns.
True.
And about second or third place for interceptions.
True.
So he's top 3 in everything, but we want to knock him because he had on and off years again. But
I like Ridley.
They also haven't had any big coaching
He's got the best
changes.
2 receivers he's had in a while.
Yeah.
I don't believe in the run game. I don't think they have a good run game. That's my main issue with that. And
they got weaker, losing Tevin Coleman. Tevin Coleman is a skill back. He brought a lot to the table.
Everyone's blowing Tevin Coleman and San Fran, and I'm not saying he's not going to earn his stripes. I just hate how much of a backfield it is.
Yeah.
If he was in Atlanta this year, I'd be reaching on Tevin Coleman. I'd be reaching like a mug.
Listen, look at everyone had success in that San Fran backfield. That line is good, right? Matt Breida, who the fuck was that? When he went down, it was next man up. Like that, and even with quarterbacks, they still had people that produced. What'd you say? They were the number 10 overall pairing.
Yep.
If you just kind of mash the quarterbacks
11.
together, 11.
Yeah.
So
Shanahan system, baby.
Yeah, so it's a Shanahan system. When Shanahan left, this was the best year Matt Ryan had since Shanahan left. That was what his downfall was.
Thank you.
Matt Ryan also took 42 sacks. He holds onto the ball too long. That forces interceptions.
And he's no spring chicken.
Hits, and
he's not young. Yeah. He's not young anymore. You got to start being a little bit smarter with that. Why do you think,
Now, the one really good thing, it plays in a dome, right? 8 games a year, plus he goes to New Orleans. That's a dome. And he has another dome. So he gets 10 dome games every year. So perfect weather.
I need some dome.
And North Carolina. North Carolina typically is really nice there.
Yeah. So he gets the benefit of weather.
This is true. So I think consensusly we all kind of just took a step back and took a breather, and we think that you guys should too. Another name that I was kind of shocked with a lot of interaction the last couple of days with all you guys on Instagram and Facebook. A lot of guys were like, "Where's Brees? Where's Ryan?" So I wanted to kind of focus on them. Listen, Drew Brees is not a bum. He's starting to get streaky though, and he's starting to kill you in the playoffs. Drew Brees got a lot of you suckers into the playoffs. He had a couple hot games in the beginning of the season. He had one dud in the first 5, not really a big deal. Goes off on a tear, 31, and this is in PPR. Well, I guess it doesn't matter for a quarterback. But 31, 28, 30, 20, 4-game streak. The next 4 games while you're in the playoffs, because how do you not start Drew Brees now?
Right.
You feel like a genius because you've only had 2 bad games, 2 okay games, and the rest are fucking knockouts. 7, 13, 5, and 16.
Yeah. He didn't have any of them.
You didn't make it to the championship.
Remember the years before, he would have those 5-6 touchdown games and just drop a 50 spot on you.
And he came close. He had in that stretch that got you into the playoffs. He had 3 games with 4 touchdowns and 1 game with 3 touchdowns. So he was still balling out. Like Drew Brees is not a bitch. Like I'm not saying don't draft Drew Brees. All I'm saying is draft on the side of caution. They have a rookie that comes in and throws the deep ball now. No other quarterback in the NFL has a rookie that comes in and has a legitimate role on that team. Name one. They don't have him. I'll go ahead and answer it for you now.
No,
so I just want to say err on the side of caution. I don't hate Drew Brees. Just err on the side of caution. Who's up next?
We got Kirk Cousins next. Last year he had just under 4,300 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions in his first year with the Vikings. A new team, a new system, and a lot going on.
So he gets a little bit of a pass, but there was just a lot of mediocrity there.
Lots of it.
Yeah, but that's his career. He's never won more than 8 games.
Facts. You ain't lying.
And I think he has talent. I've really thought that was going to maybe put them over the top. Huge upgrade over Case Keenum. They lose less games or win less games. Obviously the defense took a step back too, but they just didn't perform as a team. Is it him? Is he just always the Joe Flacco, the 8-8 guy, is that who he is?
Yeah. Well,
that's why Washington just kept franchise tagging him because they never really saw him make that change
right.
to really take over.
Right.
A game.
There wasn't that leadership, that Russell Wilson go Hawks at the end of there wasn't that. Like I thought he had it for a minute there. Where you like that? You like that when he came with that drop? I thought he had it. I thought he had it for a minute, but.
Yeah, he just doesn't find a way to win games.
Somebody kicked him in the shin.
I think he broke it. Fantasy-wise, he puts up points. But, I mean, he's the perfect quarterback that you're talking about when you're talking about you should have multipliers and make quarterback position more,
incentive-based.
Incentive-based because he wouldn't earn any of those, and he would drop from 13 to 20 just because these other people on the list, like the next two, Big Ben and Phillip Rivers, they both, win you games.
I got a little bit of beef. I like Roethlisberger. I like him. I think he's being overvalued. I'm seeing him guys top 10s. This was the best season he ever had. And he just lost one of the greatest receivers of at least this decade.
And running back. He was without
he didn't have him last year.
I wouldn't be so concerned as running back, and I'm not going to, because they're still a pass-first team.
You can't start Ben on the road.
Now,
you can't start Ben on the road.
He's too spotty.
Now, here's the one thing that he did do was last year he only sacked 24 times, right? He has, of all active quarterbacks, he's been sacked the most. He's only 30 sacks away from setting the all-time record over Brett Favre for being sacked in a career. Now, right, that's a number. If that goes up this year because he can't get the ball out as fast enough without having AB on the outside, well, hey, we may see that record broken this year.
I will say, you were talking about the home and road stuff. Just last year, which is the problem. Let's not forget this dude is constantly playing with injuries. And he was ranking around the top 10, top 15 for 5 of the last 6 years. I'm going to read this off. This is starting from last year. We're going to go back 5 years. Quarterback number 3, number 10, number 18, number 20, number 5. I'm going to go back 5 more. 11, 19, 13, 15, 9.
That's his whole prime.
That's what I'm saying. So this guy could be on the back end of the teens. Statistically speaking, if we're looking at the numbers and following, this is the same thing with Ryan. I'm leery of these older guys, especially if they're going ahead of guys like Prescott and a guy we're going to talk about later, Garoppolo. There's guys that have plenty of upside. Same thing as Brees, I would not draft any of these guys. You just have to draft them in a pair.
Well, and you have to draft them
you got to play at
the right time.
You got to get the value.
Don't reach on them early.
No.
If this is the tier you're going for, wait and bolster your bench, and find that sleeper before you go after one of these guys. And especially if you get stuck falling into this next tier, the first thing that I think about with him is just frustrates the shit out of me. Right? He has them big weeks and then just trash weeks, and I never can seem to start him on the right week, so he frustrates me more than he really probably should.
Yeah, well, okay, I get it. We love Jared Goff because he's in the system. Zach Taylor, the offensive coordinator in that tree, he's going over there to Cincinnati to take over from a coach who, very much like Jeff Fisher, kind of strangled that team's talent for years. I think this is the year. I think they're going to have a system. I don't think the Cardinals do it, which is why we don't have Kyler Murray, because initially I had Kyler Murray up in this top 20. I don't think the Cardinals do it this year. I don't buy into Kingsbury. I buy into Zach Taylor. I buy into Zach Taylor coming in there, and I buy into Andy Dalton being a much better quarterback just because of the system. There's a lot of guys we see. Nick Foles is going to go to Jacksonville. Is not going to do dick. I'm sorry. I don't think he is. But when he's in Philadelphia, in that system, even though he's been with 2 separate systems there, they're very similar because they come from the same coaching tree. He fucking produces. There's something to be said for that. I'm sorry. The right quarterback with the right system, that's a pairing.
But I think Andy Dalton has a lot to do with A.J. Green and how he goes. Is the foot better? You know what I mean?
No, his health.
A.J. Green.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that's his number one receiver. If he doesn't have a clear number one, who's going to take that role?
Boyd, baby.
Well, that's
Boyd out of the slot. They did it with they do it with Cup in
yeah, but
in
now
St. Louis.
I was starting to
I'm going old school.
Yeah, we're going old school. Throwback Thursday here, even though it's
Friday.
Flashback Friday. Yeah. So, anywho.
Yeah, but I've rode Boyd for weeks last year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking rode him hard, baby. Rode him with a couple W's.
It's aggressive.
Yeah, always. That's how I do. But is he going to flourish with the system changing?
Yes, I do. I think he's going to flourish. I don't think there's much lower of a floor. I don't think they were just a mediocre team like a Jeff Fisher. No, I think that the Bengals were fucking robbed for a long fucking time with bad coaching. But then who do we have going on after that? We have Stafford.
We got Bill Stafford tough, right?
Yeah.
I mean, listen, he plays through injuries, and it just seemed like they were catching up with him last year. Yeah, and just really needed him to, keep on that 4,000. I think the last year was probably the first year in like 4 or 5 years he didn't throw for 4,000 yards.
Right. This is a bounce back year for Stafford. I think Stafford could potentially be could move higher than he is. He could move out of this tier, no doubt. But he's just getting a little bit older.
Well, that's why it's the old guy proving to me.
He reminds me a lot of Tony Romo. He'll play through back injuries like Pierce.
He'll play through injuries. I don't think he's as intelligent as Tony.
No, but I think he's starting. I think he kind of started to get the grasp. If you consider what he did last year with a broken back, I would say he's starting to kind of figure out other ways to get it done. I'm just worried that he gets hurt again.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously a concern. He takes hits. He tries to play through it. He doesn't necessarily give his body the rest he needs. My concern is the touchdowns. That offense just stalled, right? Jim Bob Cooter, who the fuck are you?
He's dude with the best name.
Yeah, best name. Just not an offense, that I'm willing to sign up for.
But an offense I am willing to sign up for this year, believe it or not, I believe in them as far as their ADP sits, is the Raiders, and we got Derek Carr coming in at 19. I don't love Derek Carr. Derek Carr is what most people think Dak Prescott's going to turn into, and I beg to differ, but time will tell. And there's a lot of similarities there. But we will say Derek Carr had 3 Pro Bowl seasons. He was playing in a team that was falling into shambles. What did you expect? So the Raiders are being revamped. They went out. They spent the money. They went and got Trent Brown. They made him the highest paid tackle in NFL history with $66 million. I mean, it's a little ridiculous. Good for him. Congratulations, my friend. But
they also took him from the right side and were putting him on the left side. Yeah. So now you made him the highest paid and you moved him out of position. So they're really putting a lot of money in that basket.
Yeah, but he used to play left, so it's not that massive a thing. But what is huge is them getting Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs coming in and being able to handle that workload. Marshawn Lynch was getting a little long in the tooth. Couldn't quite keep his shit together. And I love Marshawn the last couple of years. You're my dog, bro. I got some Skittles whenever you're ready. But we got to think about what's happening forward here. You got Antonio Brown. Guys aren't going to be able to sit in the box with Antonio Brown for too long.
Listen, he was sacked 51 times last year. If he doesn't stay upright, then...
Yeah, but that's where the line comes in.
Right. But is one person enough? I mean, if you're getting sacked 51 times, it's telling me you have 3-4 holes in that line.
Listen, you take out... Here's why he's falling so low, but I just feel like he potentially has the right team with... It's kind of like when the Sixers did trust the process. As you started to get guys come in, all of a sudden you saw Jimmy Butler and bigger names and things like that. This is it. This is the process. This is the culmination of the process. Yeah. I think they're going to do something.
I mean, it was a 1-year process.
Well, it feels like more like a couple of years at this point. Because that last year before Gruden came in was just a bunch of
they were
shit.
garbage. They needed
that's
a regime change.
So that's where those
Gruden came in
picks
and shook it up. He took Khalil Mack, maybe a top 10 player in all of NFL, shipped him out and
this
said,
is a year where we're supposed to end up in the green.
Give me 2 first
If we were shareholders in the Raiders right now, we'd be expecting a return this year.
Yeah.
Not a huge one.
No, I'm not expecting playoffs, but I'm expecting competitive.
Give me good football to watch.
Give me more than 19 touchdowns.
Listen.
19. Like Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown had 15 touchdown receptions last year, okay? He almost had more catching touchdowns than Derek Carr had passing.
And look when Gruden won the Super Bowl before with Tampa Bay. That was his second season.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He inherited a lot of talent on that team. He looked like he didn't know what to do with it last year.
But I think they're
another year of film and then adding some of his players. I mean, maybe he does take off this season.
If the comparison is Dak Prescott, then consider Derek Carr playing up to where Dak Prescott has played at some point in the last 3 years, not out of the realm of reach.
Here's the difference.
He could be top 10.
Here's the difference.
He could be top 10. They run the rock with Josh Jacobs, and he's as good as we think. And you have a number 1 receiver in Antonio Brown. Derek Carr has the capability to throw for 4,000 yards. He has the capability to throw for closer to 30 touchdowns. He's a 3-time Pro Bowler.
Well, he threw for 4,000 last year. 4,049.
But I'm saying that's the stat line. Expecting touchdowns to go up. You're worried about the touchdowns. I agree. You got 2 big playmakers added to your line, added to your offense, and then a big piece added to the line.
Listen,
he's got upside.
I agree, his upside. The one thing you worry is John Gruden. Brought in a fullback.
Spider 2Y banana.
Right? He always has been a pound the ball first guy. And is he going to get the red zone touchdowns? We're worried about his touchdown numbers. That's what's going to get you up into the levels where he's worth it. Right? That's going to get you to the 18 points that you want to see every week. And if they're pounding it in, maybe the team's a little bit better, but that doesn't mean that the points are going to come from Carr. Like you said, Josh Jacobs is a big addition. We may see it coming on the ground.
This is facts.
All right, Jimmy Garoppolo, last guy.
Rounding out the top 20.
Now,
Jimmy
Ange, I want you to kind of take him. You had him at 12. He didn't make my or Mario's list.
This boy is the sleeper of 2019. He's going to stay healthy. He suffered the injury early in the year, so he's got plenty of time to recover. Nick Mullins and what the hell is his name?
Breeder.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. We're not drafting him. He ain't playing again.
Combined 11 quarterback. The Shanahan system's where it's at. If you haven't caught the theme recently, it's all about finding the right system and getting a piece of that pie when you're drafting. This is a guy that's going in the back end of the 12th round who has proven he makes a big difference on that team there. If the 2 scrubs that I can't even remember one of their names or say it, Beathard, by the way, but when I can't say it correctly right off the top of my head, just kind of shows you how non-important they were. Now you're going to a team. Now, I will say, we just talked about him. You lost Trent Brown.
Yeah.
That's a little bit rough, but you got some players. Your defense got a lot better, too.
I mean, and they were plug and play at running back last year. Every back.
Dump off. Hear me, boy. Dump off. Yeah. They throw to the running back. They're in the top 5 of the league.
Kittle.
And you have Kittle. And you have Dante Pettis. You have a great slot receiver. You have a great tight end. There's going to be lots of short routes.
Listen, I love Garoppolo. You get him at the right value, especially if you're drafting a quarterback in our second or third, our third or fourth tiers, to pair him with.
Yeah, you said it before. There's no such thing as a sleeper anymore. Yeah. It's just value. Am I getting value on this player? In auction drafts and Snake and Dynasty and Keeper, am I getting value? And that's the $1 million question whenever you're drafting. Guys, we had an awesome episode tonight. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.
Motherfucker.
You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Search us. It doesn't matter. Just type in the words Trash Talk Fantasy Podcast. Drop that gavel, B. We are out.